Oh my God. Are we live? Are we live right now? Hello. Can you guys hear me? Are we live right now? Did it actually work? I think it actually worked. I think if it did, my phone would have shown that it was working. Um, don't know what's going on. YouTube, what are we doing right now? Okay, we are live. We are live. What's up? I don't know if anyone is here, but if you're here, hello. Sorry that it took so long for me to get this straightened out. It turns out that Microsoft, Microsoft being Microsoft, is yeah, you got to update it. So that was the problem. It wasn't updated, so that's why there was so much of an issue, but now it seems like it's fixed. Okay. So I sound good. Everything good? Everything good? Cool. It sounds like we're good. I'm listening to it now. All right. Awesome. Yeah, I don't know if you guys noticed, I have a new mic. Yeah, I just got it today and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Well, I actually didn't get it today. I actually got it yesterday. And I know you guys have probably been noticing the audio quality as of recently hasn't been the best. And that's something that I've been working on. And luckily, I have some money, so I'm able to kind of invest in some things. So, went to Amazon yesterday, and luckily there was a sale going on on Amazon. There's this really cool mic, 5 stars down the board, and I said like, all right, I'm gonna try this out. There's good reviews on it. Let's see what we got. So I got it for $20, by the way, only $20, and I gotta say, I like it. I'm vibing with it. It's cool. It sounds good from the sounds of it. What you guys are saying, so that's really good. I'm glad that you guys can hear me. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump straight into the stream. So this is just a chill stream, to be quite honest with you. I don't have any plans. I don't have anything really much to talk about. There's been some news here and there, but nothing like major besides like Toby Maguire is now in London right now. So people are kind of trying to put two and two together. Is he in London for Brand New Day or is he in London for Doomsday? To me, I think it's more likely Doomsday, but might me and Geekly might get into that this week. So if we do a stream, stay tuned. So we'll do that. But yeah, so we're just chilling right now. Uh, I gotta ask everybody right now, what is your favorite song? That is the big question of today's stream. As you can see, the title of the stream is High Vibrations. And I thought, talking about music is something that I think would be a really cool topic to get into because, everyone has a relationship with music as a whole. And, there's all kinds of music, there's all kinds of genres of music. And I think it's very interesting to hear from other people what their favorite songs are, what their favorite singers and artists are, because it helps you grow, your music taste. I can't tell you how many times I've been in a grocery store or at the mall or at someone's house or on YouTube and I've heard a song and I'm like, what is this song? I need to know the title of this song. I actually have the Shazam app and I can find out what the name of that song is like that. So with James Gunn, because I'm not gonna lie, James Gunn, some of his music that he puts into his like movies and like Peacemaker and stuff, they're actually hits. They're actually kind of bangers. So I've, you know, dug into a lot of what James Gunn has put out, there's a whole playlist for Superman with the music, and he's got a playlist for Peacemaker and things like that. But um, I want to talk a little bit about my connection to music as a whole, because I think it's a very interesting story to just kind of hear like the backstory of like, okay, what got you into music? What got you into the artistry? And I'd say for me, growing up as a kid, I loved music down the board. If there was a cartoon growing up, the Doodle Bops, the Wiggles, anything that had music in it as a baby or as a kid, it got my attention. And I would love to just hear people sing. I would love to just hear all the kinds of musical instruments, the guitars, the violins, the drums, the trumpets, the trombones, the saxophones, the clarinets, the flutes, all of these like different instruments I listened to. And I would, in my mind, and I know for a lot of people who are into music, you can dissect the different parts. I don't know if anyone else has that experience, but you can kind of dissect in your head all the different instruments. Like you can hear the guitar on its own. You can hear the drums on its own. You can hear the synthesizer on its own. And it's like this really crazy experience that it's almost like a superpower in a way when it happens. But it's like when you listen to a song so thoroughly, even down to the lyrics, it's just like it brings you in. So, but growing up, my parents, they brought me upon different kinds of music, all different kinds, from different decades. And for me, growing up, my dad, he introduced me to a lot of Motown, a lot of, like the Temptations, the Four Tops, Stevie Wonder, all of these different artists like that back in the 60s. And my dad also introduced me to a lot of rock, a lot of classic rock, your Queen, your Van Halen, your AC/DC and Aerosmith and things like that. So I grew up listening to a lot of what my dad listened to. But then you had on the other side of things, my mom. My mom, she brought me into the Whitney Houstons, the Janet Jacksons, all of that, the R&B, the soul connection that I have came from my mom as well as my dad. My dad also listened to a lot of R&B, back in the day because that's what they were brought up on. They grew up around the 80s and 90s where you had Michael Jackson at his prime. You had Prince at his prime. You had Whitney Houston and Janet Jackson and all these different artists, New Edition, uh, Maxwell. It's just amazing how I was able to, at a young age, take in so much of the different kinds of music. And when I was younger, my dad had a big row of cassette tapes. And my dad, he was a collector. He was a physical collector. So I think that's probably where, for me, that's where I got that from because my dad, he collected a lot of DVDs, CDs, VHS tapes, and all that stuff. So I was able to grow up and have a childhood where I had like the best of so many different eras mixed all into one household. And I think it made me appreciate physical media on a deeper level because I was able to experience a lot of what my family had when they were kids, when they were teenagers, when they were young adults. So I think that when you have that connection at a young age, it hits different. So that's why I'm such a big advocate for physical media. I'm such a big advocate for, DVD releases, CD releases, vinyls, video game, you know, there's nothing like having that feeling of picking up a game from GameStop or ordering a game online and knowing you can have that physical connection to it because it feels like it's yours. You bought it and you have it to keep for as long as you want, and that's why I understand why these companies are trying to go the digital route, but I say it all the time, and people are seeing it now with streaming. Streaming is just something you can't put all your investment into because, again, you check out a movie, you check out a show or a song, and the next day it could be gone. And then it's like, okay, where do I go from here? Well, that's where physical media comes in. And there's pros and cons to physical media, but I see that there's more pros than there is cons to physical media, in my opinion. And sometimes there's movies, really old movies that companies haven't really remastered, and they do need to remaster. And that's something that I think we should push more of. Is if there's a really like old movie, that definitely needs like a visual upgrade. And I'm not talking about an AI restoration. I'm talking about like a full on, from the ground up restoration. I think that it's very integral and very important. It keeps that media alive. And that's just my opinion on it. And it's not just, movies, it's music too. Sometimes there's music that feels very old and outdated that may need that, you know, upgrade in terms of audio wise. So I think that again is very integral. But going back into my love and my treasure for music is I bought my first album when I was about 6 years old, 6 or 7 years old, and it was Michael Jackson because again, grew up Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson, I think it's no mystery to anyone here that Michael Jackson was and still is a big influence on my life. I loved Michael Jackson. I grew up watching the music videos. I had the DVD, with all the Michael Jackson music videos and stuff on it. And when he passed away, it really hurt me because I was discovering so much about him, and it felt like I knew him, though I didn't know him. So yeah, it I teared up, I cried, it hurt me. It was just one of those shocking deaths that you didn't think would happen, and it just kind of happened. So uh I remember going to Sam Goody, which I don't know, that's a throwback for some of you. I don't know if some of you were young enough to or old enough to remember Sam Goody, but I'm sure some of you are old enough to remember Sam Goody's. That was the store, you go in there. My dad, he had some DVDs that he wasn't, watching anymore, or some movies that were just not good that he wanted to sell. So we went to Sam Goody's, and I'll never forget the guy there, the clerk there, Craig. I don't know if Craig is still around. He probably is. But shout out to Craig. Really cool guy, really chill guy. We'd always go in there. He would always crack jokes at me and my dad and stuff like that. And it was just a very awesome thing. And this around the time was when Michael had passed away. So, MTV, BET, all the music stations, they were playing his music videos on rotation, because everybody felt the effect of it, and I don't want anyone to sit here and try to downplay, because I know there's a lot of people and, try to downplay the effect that Michael Jackson had as an artist. Michael Jackson was so big as an artist that literal wars that were going on just stopped. It was like the whole world just stopped. And I never had an experience of an event like that had ever happened, but that to me was like one of the world's biggest like events that was just so shocking to everybody. And again, so going into Sam Goody's and seeing like his music videos playing up on these like small TVs on the ceiling and stuff like that. So I had a lot of connection value to Michael Jackson even deeper as an artist. But then I started to go even deeper as I got older, and I wanted to learn about Prince. I wanted to learn about Stevie Wonder, and I just would sit there for hours at the time and just go through these different artists and their discographies and what I liked and you know, there's just so much to it that I appreciated music on a different level. Then there was an era where I listened to house music, and I still listen to house and dance music to this day. The Calvin Harris, the David Guettas, the Lones, the Hudson Mohawks, like all those guys who do the dance and electronic music. Can't forget Daft Punk. I had a Daft Punk era. I listened to nothing but Daft Punk, and I just it just felt different. You know what I mean? Like it felt different to be in all these different worlds. Like it felt like a multiverse of different sounds and elements and music and effects. And obviously, growing up, and it's kind of sad. I feel bad for kids now. Hey, what's up, Cam? How you doing? I'm just sitting here chatting. And Carson, you said you got the email. Awesome. I'm glad you got the email. I'm glad that it worked. Caden said, yes, I'll be live when I get home. All right, no rush. I'll be here for a little bit. But yeah, you had, MTV, they showed music videos at the time, and this is what MTV was known for. It was known for showing off music videos and the music. Now, not so much. You have all these reality shows and things like that, and I feel like MTV went away from what made it MTV in the first beginning, which is very saddening. BT the same way, in my opinion. I feel like BT was all about the music. You had Video Soul, you had all these different shows, 106 in Park. If you guys know, I know some of y'all know 106 in Park, you got all the hip hop, the Chris Browns, the Lil Waynes, all that, the music videos and stuff. They showed it off. And, that was such a integral part of our childhoods growing up, around that 5 and 6 o'clock, in the late night. At late night, 106 in Park would come on, and then that would be on for like an hour or so. Then you have Monday Night Raw wrestling come on right after it. Like it was just a very integral part for us as the 2000s kids, and I think a lot of people think that 2000s kids, we didn't really get to experience the childhood that 80s and 90s kids experience, but we did. We just had a mix of all of it. Like we had a mix of the 80s, the 90s, and the early 2000s. Like it was all mixed together in this like one big special package that I'm proud to be a 2000s kid. I'm proud to have known that I was the last generation to have experienced Saturday morning cartoons. I'm glad I was able to be the last, to know, fully going outside and playing hide and go seek until it's night, until the street lights come on and all that. Like I'll never downplay that. I loved my childhood. I have had a better childhood? Would with certain things that have happened? Yes, I would have, but I won't take away the childhood I did have. I can appreciate it for what it is. Cam, you said, I was just thinking about this the other day. Kids today won't have the experience like that because of how streaming took over the TV world. Exactly, right? Like, notice, like, sometimes it's hard for kids to sit down on a 25-minute show. And, sometimes it depends on certain things that they may be into. That might be the case, but there's times where, it may be difficult because attention spans, and even with songs, right? Songs would be like 7 to 8 minutes, 5 minutes long, even when we were growing up, right? But now songs are like 2 to 3 minutes long because of the attention spans. Hold on a minute, I got a call. I'll be right. Hey Cam, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm on the phone with someone right now. I'll be back. Just give me a second. Sorry guys, I'm back. Had a phone call. Should be all good now. But yeah, what were we? Oh yeah, we were talking about how growing up as kids, we were able to sit down and watch like an entire 30-minute episode of a show, growing up. But now, again, kids, they have TikTok, they have YouTube, they have Twitch. So, you have social media plays into a part with that. And then it's kind of like, well, you know, I don't have to technically watch like a 30-minute episode on TV. I can just doom scroll on TikTok, you know, 2 minutes worth of a video or, 1 minute worth of a TikTok. And, that's it. And, in a way, it's a bummer. It is kind of a bummer because, again, I just don't feel like kids nowadays, to me personally, just don't feel like they have a childhood. And in a way I kind of blame some, not fully blame, but in a way I kind of do blame that the companies who got greedy and decided to say like, oh yeah, let's cut Saturday morning cartoons, let's cut, and even with the streaming, right? Like you see Max now. Max has none of the Hanna-Barbera shows or anything on there anymore. They're all going to different platforms, either Hulu or Tubi and things like that. And it's like, what's going on with that? Like, why would you take away such an integral part of your history? And listen, I'm happy about all the stuff that they're doing. Warner Brothers is doing, and Warner Brothers has had a really big year with, Sinners, Final Destination, Superman, all of these movies. And I'm not going to take that away from them. But I will also say at the same time, I do feel like there's such a big empty space when it comes to animation and stuff that kids can, you know, go to, that it kind of takes away what makes Warner Brothers so iconic in my opinion. And it's just really disappointing. And even on Disney's side, right? Like even with Disney, there's a big problem where they're trying to make all of their animated stuff, all these animated movies that are very beloved, right? By many, grew up, childhoods, right? They're trying to turn all of them into live action remakes. And, I don't see the point. I think, why not just make original characters? Why not just stick to, your Pirates of the Caribbean, things like that are live action, things that do work in a live action setting, like your Marvel stuff, right? Why not just stay in that realm instead of trying to make all of the Disney properties that you have, into live action? I don't understand that logic. I don't understand it from a business perspective, because I think if Disney would get back, and not just Disney, but Warner Brothers, really all of these entertainment companies as a whole, if they would get back to what made them so special for kids, I think they would start to see so much more value within their own companies if they would just see how much positive effect that animation does for any business. And this is why I speak so highly of Marvel animation like I do, and people are like, "Why do you speak so highly of it?" Is because I see so much potential with Marvel animation. And I've said it before, we love Marvel, and I love Marvel, but I got to be honest, there are some things that Marvel won't be able to do in live action. Like, that's just the God's honest truth about it. There's going to be some things technological and per storyline reasons I feel like they won't be able to do. But with animation, this gives them that leeway to tell these stories in a way. With animation, you have all the effects, you have all of the, limitless opportunities to bring something really special. And I'm hoping that Marvel can advocate for putting some Marvel animation feature films out, because I think that would be really good to do for them to do feature films. I know the X-Men 97 crew, they were talking about, and I did a video about this a while ago, but they were talking about maybe doing a feature film for X-Men 97. I think that would be absolutely amazing because there's so much they can do with that big screen, and with the resources and everything that they've already have been doing with just the series. Imagine how much more resources and time and elements that they could use in a feature length film. It would just be amazing. And honestly, if you put X-Men 97 on the big screen, personally, I'm all in, because it's already a beautifully made show. Same with Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Granted, people are viced on the animation style. Personally, I personally like the animation style, but even something like that, right? I can see on the big screen. Marvel Zombies. Even though I had no interest with Marvel Zombies at the beginning, but with that recent trailer that just came out, I could definitely feel the feature length film within that. And I wouldn't even be surprised if Marvel Zombies was conceptualized as a feature length animated film at first, but then maybe they changed it. But I'm hoping that with the positivity and success that Marvel Animation has had over the past few projects that they've released, that Marvel sees, Kevin Feige sees, and Brad Winterbaum sees the potential in feature length animated films down the road. So that's how I feel about it personally. Anyway, like I said, going back into just the childhood stuff, right? Like I said, um, don't mind me. I'm the texting somebody right now. Okay, alrighty. Let's see what you guys are saying. You're good, man. You're good. You had an ad. Yeah, I think I do have like quite a few ads going on. So yeah. You said, what's up, Anthony? How you doing, man? You said, how are you doing, buddy? I'm doing good. I can't complain. I'm just chilling. Happy to be on with you guys. I almost, wasn't sure if I was even going to be able to stream, because for some reason the stream just was not working. So yeah, I'm doing good. You said you just saw Toxic Avenger. How was it? Was it good? Is it a good movie? I haven't really heard too much about it, but I definitely want to hear your thoughts on the movie. Shoot, even PBS just got cut, which is crazy to me. Exactly, right? Like, PBS is a big milestone in every child's life. Like, if you didn't have cable, PBS was the thing you had. Now, granted, now they have, MeTV Tunes, but if you didn't have anything else, you had PBS, right? You had Arthur and Mr. Rogers and, Sesame Street and all these shows. And even with Sesame Street, right? Like, the treatment that Sesame Street has been getting. And granted, Sesame Street has been a household name since the 70s, right? And for them to cut a show that is such integral, it just tells me like people aren't thinking of the kids anymore. They're not thinking about what it's like to be a kid anymore. And it's just really sad. It really is. It's really sad. But yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it, Anthony. Sounds like it's an awesome movie. I might have to check it out. Is it on any streaming platforms or is it out in theaters? Because I might have to check it out. But yeah, I want to kind of dive back into my love for music. I know I was kind of getting off topic there, but then the 2010s came. All right. So the 2010s, we had you know, a lot of crossover when it came to music, right? You had R&B artists teaming up with electronic artists. You had, Usher teaming up with Calvin Harris. You had Rihanna teaming up with, David Guetta and all these different artists, right? And you had your Katy Perry's, you had your um, all these like different artists around the 2010s, and it was more of a I'd say it was more of like it was a time where you just wanted to party, right? Like people just wanted to party, right? And have all kinds of like hype music like Turn Down for What and Your Happies by Pharrell and you know the songs that were constantly getting played on the radio like every 5 minutes, right? That was such an integral part. And growing up in middle school, my music taste kind of went a little different because I was kind of getting into a lot of the new music that was coming out. Like you said, your Katy Perry's, your Pitbulls, um, the Christina Aguilera's, things like that. So it was just a really interesting time as a growing up as a kid, in middle school. And I would always go to the school dances. And if there's anyone in here that went to school with me, I was the one who I'm not a person when it comes to music. I'm not someone who just tags on the wall and just doesn't want to dance. If I'm in the groove to dance, then I'm going to dance. That's something that I've always had, even growing up as a kid. It didn't matter. I would just dance like like there was no tomorrow. And I always wanted to, take dance seriously. It's been a long time since I've danced, but I used to dance a lot. I used to try to do a lot of break dancing, and that's what sucks is like the one category that I'm excited about with the Olympics, they cut. Like they had the breakdancing, category in the Olympics. And I thought that was so cool that they were trying to do that. And I was like, this would be really cool if they could do like a DJing Olympics next. And I don't know why they cut it, but they cut it, and I'm very disappointed because that was like the one category that I was very interested in the Olympics. Now, granted, I was interested in the track and field as well. The track and field stuff is very interesting, but the dance breaking stuff was just up my alley. Like that was something, if you had told me that the Olympics had breakdancing, that was all I needed to just go to the Olympics. So very unfortunate. Very unfortunate that they scrapped it. You said it was nice to catch you live, but I gotta go do some stuff. If you're still live, I'll hop back in. If not, have a good day, bro. Yeah, I appreciate you coming in, Cam. I appreciate you coming in. I don't know how long I'm gonna be live for. I know that I won't be live too long because Monday Night Raw comes on at 8 o'clock, and I don't know about you guys if you're wrestling fans, but AJ Lee just made her return on SmackDown last Friday, and I'm a AJ Lee fan, so I definitely want to hear what she has to say in terms of, being off of wrestling for 10 years. So I definitely want to hear her thoughts, what she plans to do with Becky Lynch, what CM Punk has planned for Seth Rollins, and things like that. So that's where I will be at 8 o'clock. So I'll try not to be on too long just for that, but I'm gonna stream for a little long, So 6:30 right now, so maybe I'll probably end it at about 7:30, I think would be a good time. And then if I know I started a little late, maybe I can stream tomorrow. I don't know for sure. Um, because I'm thinking about doing a video, but I just don't know what to do a video on. So just stay tuned. Just keep your alerts open, and stay subscribed. And I'll keep you guys up to date on what I decide to do. But yeah, I don't know if anyone is here, but the question of today's stream is, what is your favorite song? I would love to know what everyone's favorite song is. Don't be ashamed to say what your favorite song is, because we all have, again, different music taste. And I think that's a very integral part. I think that's a very important part of who we are as people, our personalities, things like that. So, yeah, my favorite song right now has to be, it's tough because, I listen to a lot of R&B music. I listen to, the Leon Thomases of the world, the Kevin Rosses, Victoria Monet, Lucky Day, Dundee, all these artists I listen to love R&B. So for me, I would have to say anything Leon Thomas right now, as you can see in my thumbnail, because that is Leon Thomas in my thumbnail. Yes, the same Leon Thomas from Victorious. Really cool that he's done music, which he's produced music for other artists and things like that, but he's going into his own and doing music and stuff, and it's really really dope. He has been doing music before then, but with the popular song Mutt, that's very popular, and some of his other songs on the Heal album, that's really good. So I definitely recommend Leon Thomas if you're a fan of R&B. Kevin Ross is another one. Lucky Day is another one. Dundee. Obviously, I listen to some hip hop. Your Kendricks, you got your J. Cole's. Shout out to J. Cole, North Carolina native. So, I have to represent. And yeah, so I more likely this year though, I've been listening to a lot of 80s music. I just have had this like 80s sensation for years. So, I'm listening to, Jazz Hates, Johnny Hates Jazz. You have your, George Michael, um, Michael Jackson, obviously Prince, Whitney Houston, the Pointer Sisters, which, if you remember, the Pointer Sisters has a song in the latest GTA 5, GTA 6 trailer. Hot Together is the name of the song, and things like that. So I've just been very versed into like the 80s of it all. I listen to some 90s in there too. So it's a bit of a mix of 80s and 90s music, but it's more of just like 80s in general. And I'm enjoying it, Hall and Oates, like I said, Van Halen, Phil Collins, just like a ton of just different artists from the 80s. And sometimes I wish I had a time machine where I could just go back in time and just go see these artists live, because there's nothing like going to a live show and actually seeing these artists like really do their thing, you know? Um it kind of sucks that I was born in I mean, it doesn't suck, but it is kind of unfortunate that by the time these artists had gotten older, some of them had already passed away and things like that. So I wasn't able to experience, them in their prime, or them, still performing even after. And that's why I say, like, I appreciate music on a whole different level because, you know, granted, the music industry is a very shady business. It's a very shady business. There's so many stories of so many artists who could have been so much bigger, could have been so much more than just a one hit wonder. And they, shady stuff with record labels and all that stuff that comes into play. There's so much politics behind the music industry that, now, a lot of artists are realizing like, hey, I don't even have to sign to a label. I can just do music independently. And I think that's a really awesome thing that artists are starting to go more independent. And I not even just that, I think that in general, right? I think people are starting to spartan up. I don't have to be a part of the corporations. I don't have to be a part of this, greedy, unforgiving business world. I can kind of go on my own journey and go from there. There's plenty of artists out there who are doing that right now. So kudos to them. Get your royalties, get your checks, get your promotion. You deserve that, because you're the ones behind this art. So, yeah. You said, thank God for all of the original artists in cinema and all art. Exactly, right? Like, without them, where would we be right now? Like, if someone hadn't sat down and came up with the idea of, hey, we got these cameras, let's make a movie, right? It may not have been the best movie in the world, but they made a movie nonetheless. And here we are, 100 years later, still talking about movies, still talking about all kinds of movies. What movies we haven't seen yet that we would love to see someone direct. We would love to see some of the actors and movie stars. And people want to say that this generation doesn't have movie stars. I disagree. I think there are movie stars in this generation. It's just that I feel like with the studios and stuff, they don't give them the exposure and time to really get a feel with the audience that I feel like a Denzel or a Tom Hanks or a Tom Cruise did, back in the day, because you didn't have social media, so you didn't really know about people's lives on a whole, 24/7 basis. You didn't know that Tom Cruise was in, London filming the next Mission Impossible unless you had the magazines, and Tom Cruise would say like, "Hey, yeah, I'm in London and I'm filming the next Mission Impossible movie." You didn't know that Denzel was, you know, doing a movie, with Ethan Hawke unless you, tapped into that and kind of got a little bit of some info from people who were in that industry. So that way you would know that, Ethan Hawke and Denzel would be doing training day, right? So there's just a different level and a different time. But I still don't think that the whole there's no movie stars in Hollywood in this day and age is a discussion that I agree with, because there is. It's just a different time. It's just a different time. And I think that that's something that people need to be more aware of and kind of understand that, again, things aren't what they used to be, but you can still find the great gems in this generation. People like to throw this generation off as if it's the digital age. And yes, it is the digital age. And it's a very unfortunate thing in most cases because, like I mentioned earlier, I feel like kids in this day and age don't have a childhood because everything has been so digitized to them. Everything has been so out in front of them, and there's so many sources of information, and they don't always know what's right or what's wrong because they're seeing one thing from one perspective and they're not seeing it from the bigger picture. So that's always something to keep in mind when it comes to the upcoming generations, is that we, as older generations, we have to support them. We have to acknowledge them. We have to say, hey, this isn't what it seems. It's not all that accurate, but here's what I can tell you. And then you can go from there and you can make your own decision on what you want to believe, what you feel, and things like that. So that's something to keep in mind. Katie, you said the legacy of this generation will be seen more, maybe 10 to 20 years. They didn't see until the original golden age either. Exactly. People don't really see the amount of or the impact that people make until about years later, right? And then they start to see like, okay, well that they were on to something back then. How many times can I tell you about, rap music in the 2000s that came out? Hey, what's up, Geekly? where some of the rap music that came out in the 2000s, right? Where a lot of people were kind of shaking their head, like, okay, what were they even doing? Like, let's get crunk. What were they even talking about? Let's get crunk, or to the window, to the wall, things like that, right? But now, seeing as people get older, you hear those songs and it brings back memories in your head. You start to appreciate those songs more because it was like, okay, now I know these songs. Now I grew up with these songs. I may not have understood what we're talking about, but now that I'm older, now that I'm an adult, I can understand what they're saying. I can understand what they meant by let's get crunk, and things like that. So I think as you get older, you start to appreciate things as a kid just a little bit more than you did as a kid. And that's why I love this whole cycle where I see people like adults, right? They're dressing up, they're cosplaying as their favorite characters, in comics or in shows and things like that, because it brings back like that inner child, and I think everyone has that inner child within them. It's just that you have to find a way to balance it to where you have that inner child within you, but you also have the awareness and the exception as an adult to say, yeah, I'm an adult, but I can still enjoy these things. I can still read comics. I can still watch anime. I can still, do all of these things and appreciate it as an adult while still living an adult life, while still working, while still, dating and getting married and having kids and, all the things that life has to offer. And it's just a really like awesome thing that I love. I love about life is that you can find the amazing things and even just the smallest of things, you know, that you were as a childhood. I don't know about you, but there's days where I wish I had friends in this area that we can go to like a baseball field and play kickball all over again, and trying to figure out who's the team captains and things like that, and choosing who's on your team and stuff like that. There's times where I think about I wish I could do that again, or there's times where we would go out into like a field or something and just like I don't know, play hide and seek and things like that. I don't know. I guess maybe again that's the inner kid in me, and that's the inner kid in all of us. Sometimes we think about those things, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think there's anything bad about that. Some people would try to make other people feel bad about those things, but I say don't listen to them. You know, Katie, you said, I think maybe pacing changed a little bit too. Sometimes it feels like some of the new movies don't have the patience in between timing, but there are ones that do. That's also the case. That's also the case too. I think a lot of movies nowadays are becoming very fast paced, and sometimes, and again, I think it's just due to the attention spans. Like a lot of people are afraid of the attention spans that, people have, again, with the whole social media age. But I want to say this. I don't think they should base everything based off of what, TikTok attention spans are saying. Like, I don't think they should base things off that. Sometimes it's best to let things, play through and kind of wait and then you understand it. Like, for example, right? You're watching wrestling and Undertaker. If you've ever seen any Undertaker match, it's going to take Undertaker about 15 minutes to get to the ring. You want to know why? Because at that time, you were able to appreciate the character of the Undertaker, what Mark Calloway was able to do with the character of the Undertaker, why he, walked, like the dead man walking to the ring about 15 minutes, or even like, recently, like Roman Reigns, right? Like Roman Reigns, it takes him about 15 minutes to get to the ring, but you understand the weight. There's character work at play. And I feel like sometimes with movies, we just don't get the opportunity to fully they just don't have the opportunity sometimes to fully flesh out the character work within them sometimes. Now, granted, there are some movies that do. They are able to kind of flesh that out. And I think a good example, even though it's not a movie, a good example right now would be Alien Earth. I don't know if anyone in here is an Alien fan. I love Alien. I love the movies and stuff like that. And I've really been really into Alien Earth. I think when's the next episode? I think it's tomorrow night. The next episode comes out tomorrow night. But the recent episode, I won't say anything about the recent episode, but I think the recent episode is my favorite episode out of all of them so far. And they've all been good. All the episodes of Alien Earth have been really good. But this recent episode, past recent episode last week, really good. Like that could have been an alien movie within itself. And granted, each episode of Alien is like 48 minutes to 50 minutes long. So when you have a show that it feels like every episode feels like its own separate movie, you just get more time to flesh out those slow moments that I feel like an hour to 2 hour movie nowadays just feel like it just doesn't have the capacity to do anymore because everybody's like, okay, get to the story, get to this, get to that. I don't care about the slow moments. And I think with older movies, you go back and you start to appreciate those slower moments and understand why this was the way it was, why the pacing changed the way it did. And when you build up to those big climactic moments, you get even more appreciation because it's like, okay, where are we going to go from here? What are they going to do now? So, yeah, I do agree. I do agree with what you said, Caden. Some of the best actors were inspired by their childhood, like Dick Van Dyke, Mr. Bean, and yeah, Cosby. Yeah, like I said, there's so many influences and people that even those people, right? They had influences growing up. They had people that they watched or people that they listened to that gave them the opportunities to say, like, okay, I want to do something like they did, but I want to do it with my own special twist to it. Like, for example, right? I'm trying to think of a good example. So, Michael Jackson, right? Michael Jackson had quite a few influences. Obviously James Brown comes to mind. Shout out to James Brown. Jackie Wilson, another great artist of the time. Sam Cooke. When you think about those artists from the 60s, right? And how they paved a way for not just people in the 70s, not just people in the 80s, but people in the 90s, right? People were in the 90s still using James Brown samples in their songs because that's just how prominent James Brown was, not just as a artist, but also as a engineer when it came to being a godfather of soul, being the godfather of in my opinion, when it comes to dance, I think James Brown kind of set that path forward for the Michael Jacksons, for the Princes of the world to kind of stride in that space where they can make their own magic and still show homage to the people that came before them. And even with actors, you can tell by some of the actors in today's time. They may not go out on the record and tell you what their influences are, but if you look at how they deliver certain characters, how they go about the emotions and how they emote themselves, right? You can tell and see the influences within their acting. Um, and I think that's what's really amazing is that a generation can go by and there will still be the remnants of the past generations, and it just continues to grow more and more and more into something that feels fresh and new every single time but still feels familiar. This could be a podcast episode. I'm not even gonna hold you. Yeah, James Brown was the godfather. He was godfather of soul, man. God, if you haven't, I definitely go check. I definitely recommend checking out "Get On Up" by Play. James Brown played by Chadwick Boseman. Rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. Really good with that role. But there's also been some documentaries out there on James Brown if you want to learn more about his life. He has a very difficult childhood for sure, but the fact that he was able to overcome his childhood, even still having a rough childhood and still being able to bring magic into the world, those are the stories I admire. Those are the stories where people go through things because we all have a story. We all have things that we go through on a day to day basis or throughout our childhood, rather it was, family wise, maybe you got bullied in school. Um, Maybe you had, complications with health, things like that. There's always a story. And so I'm a believer of when you take the story that you have and you show people in a positive way, you can make people aware of what you've gone through, but also tell the generations under, like, hey, I might have gone through this, but that doesn't mean you have to go through this. You can be better. You can be better than what I was. I made mistakes. And I'm going to tell you on stream right now, I've made some mistakes in my life and I'm still making mistakes. That's just a part of growing up. But when you're able to learn from your mistakes and become better, to make things better for you and for the people around you, it makes life much more treasurable. And that's what I'm learning even now. I'm going to be 24 next week, which is crazy to think about. I'm going to be 24 next week. I don't feel that way. I don't feel like I'm 24. I still feel like I'm 16. I still feel young at this age because there's just a youth within me that I can't seem to get rid of, and I don't think I ever will because it's just there's something really special about feeling nostalgic, but also feeling like there's so much of a balance between what I remember, what I know, and like what I feel. And maybe some of you feel that way. I don't know, but that's how I feel. He's one of the greatest entertainers. They used to call Sammy Davis Jr. just that. Yeah, Sammy Davis Jr. Another another pivotal person when it comes to like entertainment that I feel like he doesn't get his flowers enough. But if you look at Sammy Davis Jr. and my first ever, you know, introduction to Sammy Davis Jr. was the first Ocean's 11 movie. In that movie, you had Frank Sinatra, you had Dean Martin in there, and the Rat Pack. So you had, these guys who were very big at that time. So having them in a movie was a very big deal at that time because again, you had these like powerhouse artists, and I listen to Frank Sinatra every now and then. I love Frank Sinatra. I think he's when I think about someone who he's not afraid to emote how he feels within the range that he has. He's an artist that I think of, and there's so many amazing vocalists, male and female, that when you listen to them, it's just like that's them. That this is their song. Um, and that's what I love about entertainment. That's what I love about the media. I love about all that we talk about, all that I talk about, because there's a love for this, and I want to do amazing things. I would love to get into music because I write songs. I have a whole book of songs that I've written, growing up in high school and middle school and things like that, with things that maybe I've experienced, but also, I write poems. I've I've written scripts for, shows that I've thought about doing down the road when I become a director, and things like that. Like I'm always trying to find new ways to get creative. I draw. I haven't drawn in a while, but I used to draw all the time. In a stream, I could show you guys like this whole big portfolio of drawings that I have that I did. So you can kind of my mindset was, even as a kid, because I think that's something very integral that I would love to share with you guys. I just watched a movie with Sinatra in it yesterday. It was called Robin and the Seven Hoods with Sammy Davis. Good musical. I gotta check that one out. I don't think I've seen that one before. Also, Geekly, you said you're heading home late from work, but listening on the way. Awesome. Well, this is a pretty good podcast episode, I think. So I think this is a very good listen until you get home, for sure. You said you would be. I don't know if there's ads right now. I don't know if there's ads right now, but if there are ads, you said you would be a fantastic comic book writer too. I would love to write comics. I would love to draw comics too. If I can get back into just drawing comics like I used to, I would be down. There's no ads, thankfully. Okay. Because I know sometimes there might be some ads. So sometimes I may say things and people are like, what did you say? So I want to try to make sure that I repeat what I say, like even after the ads are done. I forgot I got to text. I got to text something to someone. But yeah, while we're on the topic, Caden, I know you're in here. I want to know what is your favorite song or favorite songs in general? Because I know you, from what I've seen, you're well versed into music too. My favorite song is AM 180 by a small band called Granddaddy. It's a good 90s hit that always resonated with me. Okay. I don't believe I've heard of that one before. So I definitely will check that one out. I definitely will check that one out. I mean, for me, like my favorite song, I think I mentioned, like it changes on a day-to-day basis. How good he was. You taught me about Henry Mancini. I couldn't believe it how good he was. Yeah, Henry Mancini is very good. A lot of people just associate him with just the Pink Panther theme song, but when you go down Henry Mancini's catalog, there's so much to his music, and I love listening to you know composers and things like that. Like one thing, some that come to mind is Eric and Zach Berenberg, and you heard that name, but some people would just associate it with the shows. Eric and Zach Berenberg are the ones that did the music for Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, but they also are like very known for doing music for Cobra Kai. And I've talked about how much I'm a big Cobra Kai fan and I miss the show, and it feels unreal that the show has ended this year. It doesn't even feel real that's the case. And I'm kind of sad about that because I miss that show. So, and then another one is John Pasona, John Pisano. And John Pisano, he does music for Daredevil. He did the music for the original Daredevil series. He did music for the Spider-Man games, Spider-Man 2018, Miles Morales, and Spider Man 2. So very goaded there. Another one I'm thinking of right now. Obviously, you got your John Williams. Um, Michael Giacchino, Michael Giacchino, like I could go on about Michael Giacchino. He's probably my favorite scorer, like my favorite composer when it comes to scores. I mean, just listen to the Batman score. That's just enough right there to kind of show you the range that Michael Giacchino has. Also, Michael Giacchino has directed. He directed Werewolf by Night and composed Werewolf by Night. So shout out to him. And then obviously you got your Danny Elfman. Danny Elfman obviously did the theme song for The Simpsons. He did the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, soundtrack. Like, there's so many like amazing composers who did, all these like different art, like shows and animated stuff that we love. And then when you sit down and like actually listen to the music, it's like, okay, I love this. You said Incredibles is still his best score, in my opinion, hands down. Yeah, the Incredibles score is, well, quite literally incredible. So yeah. And even like we look at like the Spider-Verse soundtrack. Daniel Pemberton, I think that's his name. Daniel Pemberton as well. Very good composer. Like that Spider Verse score, both movies, really good. But also, obviously, the official soundtracks are really good as well. Although I will say, and this is just my personal opinion, I still think Across the Spider Verse has the better soundtrack. I just think that Metro Boomin he did this thing on the Across the Spider Verse soundtrack, and all the other people involved with that, they just really like knocked it out of the park. And it just gets me even more curious about what they're going to do for Beyond the Spider-Verse. Like, I can only imagine what things they're cooking up right now with the soundtrack for that movie. It's going to be insane, and I'm very much looking forward to it. I still say, and I still stand by this, they need to get Kid Cudi on the Beyond the Spider-Verse soundtrack, even if it's just on a song. I think it would be dope for him and Metro Boomin to collab on a song. But I guess kind of while we're on the topic of like scores, what are some of your favorite scores? Like, it could be from video games, it could be from movies, TV shows, whatever it is. What is your like favorite score? I think for me, I'm tied between the Batman and the Cuphead soundtrack. And granted, I mean, Cuphead, you already have, you know, amazing graphics and gameplay with Cuphead. But then you get that 30s jazz band experience with Cuphead, and it just completes it even more. And it's just amazing. Christopher Madigan, well done on both the original Cuphead soundtrack and the DLC soundtrack. Amazing. You said I need Cole on a verse for Spidey. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I need Cole. Speaking of Cole, I don't know if you saw, but they just revealed in where Cole's hometown is of Fayetteville, which um it's no mystery that I won't say exactly where I live, obviously for privacy reasons, but I live relatively near where J. Cole is. So I will say that it's going to be very interesting when that mural gets finished, because I will be visiting that. I may actually take a picture there. If you go on my Instagram or my Twitter, you can actually see I posted up. There's a J. Cole mural in downtown of Fayetteville. So that is where I took that picture. And that's where J. Cole's from. J. Cole's from Fayetteville. Fayetteville, North Carolina. So, Very cool. But yeah, I definitely need a Cole verse. And if they want a Kendrick verse on there too, I mean, hey, throw a little Kendrick on there too. I think that'd be dope. Um, that'd be cool. Final Fantasy, is that Final Fantasy 7? I believe. No, is that 7? I believe it is 7. Final Fantasy 7 score is otherworldly. I definitely want to check out Final Fantasy. And even like the soundtrack because I've heard good things about the soundtrack for Final Fantasy. So I definitely want to dive into that. But yeah, yeah, I don't live too far from where J. Cole stayed, where he stayed here. So yeah, pretty cool. Little known fact about me. I've never bumped into J. Cole yet, but I'm hoping one of these days I'm somewhere and I bump into him because if I do, best believe I'm gonna get a picture. And best believe I'm gonna be posting it on here. Might even try to see if I can get a little bit of a small interview with him too, and I might do a short for that. Who knows? I had someone ask me the other day, have I ever had a celebrity uh run in? I've never had a celebrity run in. Now my parents have, but I have not had that luxury yet. But I think I will at some point. The only time I was close was in 8th grade. Adam Sandler. Adam Sandler was shooting a movie and we were on a field trip. And I remember distinctly saying, like, I want to go see Adam Sandler. Teacher was like, no, you can't see Adam Sandler. Heartbroken. I could have had an opportunity to talk with Adam Sandler. Heck, I probably could have been in Happy Gilmore too. But you want to know what? The teacher said, no, you can't go. So, yeah, opportunity missed. So, if I ever meet Adam Sandler, I'm going to tell him that story because, I just think it's funny. Looking back at it, I think it's funny. Silent Hill 2 has a good soundtrack of Japanese rock. I have heard good things about Silent Hill. I haven't played any of the games, but I know Silent Hill F, I believe it is, comes out this year. Don't count me on that though, but I think it comes out this year. You're better than Sandler. I mean, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I haven't really been in anything to kind of prove that, but I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate you saying that though. Adam Sandler, he's got that dad humor, right? Which I believe I heard, rumor has it, we might be getting Grown Ups 3. So if you're a Grown Ups fan, then you might have something to look forward to. I just miss comedy all around the board. I still haven't seen Naked Gun yet. I wanted to go see it in theaters and I just never had the chance to go see it. But I heard great things about Naked Gun. I heard it was like hilarious. It was that classic comedy that is very lacking in this day and age. So I definitely want to check out Naked Gun. I think it's out on digital, so maybe I'll check that out sometime this week. I'm still waiting on the announcement for Rush Hour 4 though. Yes, I want Rush Hour 4. Rush Hour, I love Rush Hour. Actually, funnily enough, I believe the first Rush Hour movie premiered on my birthday, September 18th, 1996, I believe. Let me check and make sure that that's right. When did Rush Hour premiere? Yep, September 18th, 1998. So yeah, pretty cool that an actual movie that I am very much in love with to this day. One of my favorite movies. If you go on Letterbox, it's literally one of my favorite movies. Obviously, on Letterbox, you can only choose four movies. Rush Hour is one, Karate Kid 2, obviously Back to the Future, and Into the Spider Verse are the four movies I have up there. That might change soon, but I wish they would give you a chance to give you more movies instead of four. But those were the four that I had, and that was difficult in itself because there's so many movies I love that unfortunately it was hard to kind of pick and choose which one I wanted in those four spots. You said, "Hey man, I'm loving the stream so far. I got to drive back home. It's not far, so hopefully I'll catch on more of this, bro." Yeah, understandable. I'm probably going to end the stream about 7:30 because like I said, obviously wrestling is it comes on at 8 o'clock. And like I said, AJ Lee is back. AJ Lee is back. Light it up. Light it up. I got to see what she's going to say. So, yeah. Yeah, it's been a great stream so far. You guys have been amazing. Uh Great conversations. I know I started a little bit later than what I wanted. But yeah. My go AJ, yes, she's back. AJ Lee is back. She returned Friday night SmackDown. So she's back, with CM Punk, and they're gonna face off with Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins. Apparently at the next pay per view, which is WrestlePalooza in this month. So yeah, gonna be a interesting time. So yeah, you might want to check out Monday Night Raw tonight just to see what she's gonna say. Time for me to lock in. Yeah, yeah, man. There's a streamer that I know. She's a very popular streamer. Minnie Portable. She's been clamoring for AJ Lee to return, and seeing her reaction, like she got so like, and it wasn't just her, but her reaction, like she got very like emotional about it, and rightfully so, right? Like a wrestler that you grow up with, and you love that wrestler to death, and you're hoping, just hoping that one day they'll return to the ring, and you know they make that surprise return, and it's just like, I can't believe it. I can't believe they done it. They really did this. And it reminded me so much of the CM Punk situation because for a long time, after CM Punk left, it was kind of in a space where will we ever see CM Punk wrestle again? And then, obviously years later we saw him go to AEW. Then, if you know what happened about the whole AEW situation, then you know what happened there. Then he went to back to WWE, which was kind of expected, but in the same way, still was kind of a shock because it was kind of like, well, surely CM Punk wouldn't go back to WWE, right? After everything that happened to him, the firing on his wedding, he was on his wedding day when he got fired and all that. Like you would think like, nah, he's never coming back. If there's one thing, and this is just in the entertainment industry as a whole, if there's one thing that life has taught me, never say never. That's why we have RDJ back as Doom, because a lot of people thought that RDJ would never come back in Marvel again. Never say never. I may not be a fan of RDJ as Doom, and I still am not a fan of it, but I will say Never Say Never. Uh, I don't know if you guys have seen the stuff with Chris Evans right now. Chris Evans, there's been photos of Chris Evans. He's kind of buff right now. He's been working out. He's got a little bit of the stubble going on. So, Doomsday. Are we gonna see him in Doomsday? Never say never. Yeah, yeah. Chris Evans is jacked. Like I was like really shocked by seeing him. I was like, yeah, he's definitely coming back. So we're gonna see. Hope if he is in Doomsday, which reports are saying that. We're gonna see what his role is going to be because that's gonna be interesting, especially the interaction with the X-Men. I can't wait just to see what interactions they're gonna have with him and the X-Men because it's gonna tie all of this back together from the start, and that to me is the most exciting part of Doomsday for me is just some of the characters that have been around since the very beginning interacting with some of the other characters that have been around since the very beginning and kind of having that connection there. That's really to me the most intriguing part about the whole Doomsday thing. If I'm being honest, I'm still not sure about Doomsday though. I'd have to see the movie to kind of feel like, okay, I like it. This is well thought out. Could have been better. So we'll see. But Secret Wars, I got a good feeling about Secret Wars. I definitely got a good feeling about Secret Wars. And like I said, there's been other stuff out there. Toby Maguire is in London right now, according to some sources. Brand New Day. Is he in Brand New Day? Is he in Doomsday? That's something we'll actually that's actually a good segue. Geekly, I don't know what day you're free. Definitely higher hopes for Secret Wars. Yeah, for sure. I don't know what day you're free, but we definitely might have to talk about some of the Doomsday stuff that's kind of going rapid right now. Maybe I don't know about tomorrow, but maybe Wednesday. Because who knows, we might get some more news by then. Because I don't know if you guys were here. Some of you were here last week, but last Wednesday was insane with news. Like we had the Men of Tomorrow announcement, the Wolverine PS5 rumor that's going around. Like, um it was just insane last Wednesday. So I'm expecting we might get another newsworthy Wednesday. I'm free back half of Wednesday. Okay, cool. So we'll try to set something up then for we'll try to set something up for Wednesday then. Which it seems like also I want to talk about. It seems like you guys are enjoying the kind of new approach that I'm taking with the channel, which is very welcoming and very amazing because I kind of not worried so much about viewership or things anymore. Uh, I just want to focus on the content that I enjoy or I'm looking forward to or what you guys are looking forward to. And that's kind of where my mindset is now. It's not about reaching the milestones. Yeah, the milestones are cool. Like, don't get me wrong, but I just want to have fun with this. Like I did when I first started. When I first started this, like I was just having fun. I didn't really care if 20 people watched. If 20 people watched, that was good enough for me. So getting back into that mindset. Yes, sir. It's called YouTube for a reason. Exactly. You get to decide what you want to do on the platform, and you get to figure out how you want to do it. So, exactly. But man, I don't know about you guys, but these next couple of years are going to be exciting. Marvel, DC, I mean, video game adaptations are on the rise. I mean, it's insane how much stuff we're getting in the years past. And it's just a very exciting time as someone who just loves entertainment as a whole and just has an appreciation for entertainment. Oh yeah, Geekly, while you're here, I gotta ask you the question of the day. What is your favorite song? I definitely would like to know what your favorite song is, and if you have multiple favorite songs, hey, I'm down to hear because I couldn't even decide what my favorite song was. I just had to like say like favorite artist that I'm listening to currently. So much to feast on, exactly. Like so much. We're gonna be eating good for the next couple of years. Don't mind me, I thought I heard something outside. I think someone's playing music, and that's what I'm hearing. All comes back full circle. Yeah, with music being the topic. If you guys like these kind of like chill and talk about music streams and stuff, let me know. We're definitely gonna do more of them. It's nice sometimes to just not worry about a topic at hand and just kind of chill and just talk about whatever the vibes send us. You know, good high vibrations, high vibrations. So yeah. I've never had a singular favorite song, but my current song rotation is Latin Seymour by Gorillaz, Love Yours by J. Cole, Better Days by Jid, and Backwards by Jonas Brothers. Did you see? I don't know if you saw, because I know we talked about Jonas Brothers before. Did you see the movie that they got going? I believe it's a Christmas movie, if I'm not mistaken. But those are really good songs, by the way. That's a really good song choice. Song's choice, I should say. I did. I hope it's in the same universe as their sitcom. I hope so too, because that would be really cool to get all of the people back from the sitcom into this particular movie. That would be talk about nostalgic. It would be really cool. It would be awesome for sure. Yeah, yeah, definitely. So we'll have to see what they do. We will have to see what they do with that movie. Um, but it's cool to see the Jonas Brothers back. You know, Geekly's been getting me back into the Jonas Brothers, so I haven't been, up to date with them for years. The last song I think I heard from them was Cake by the Ocean, and that came out like years ago. That I think I was like we were in middle school when that song came out. So that was like the last like song from like a, Jonas Brothers like esque that I had heard. Obviously like Nick Jonas, Jealous, that song was very popular in, middle school as well. So that was like another song that I heard on rotation a lot. We gotta do a listen party on Twitch, man. I'm down. And are there any Jonas Brothers fans in here? I'm pretty sure there is. Like somebody will be like, "Hey, I'm a Jonas Brothers fan," so that would be cool. I'm down for that. I will. You know what? I will go live on Twitch just to do that, just so we can do that. Which that is something that we talked about, like doing more like listen parties, checking out music. Because obviously on YouTube we can't really do it because of uh, obvious reasons, copyright reasons. But with Twitch we can get away with that kind of stuff a little bit more. They're a little bit more lenient on that, so I think it would be cool to do some listen parties and stuff like that. But yeah, man, I'm down. I'm down for that. It's been a slow Monday, that's for sure. Usually Mondays are kind of slow, but then it's like Tuesdays kind of like okay, it's Tuesday. But then Wednesday it's like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's like wow, the week is we're already into the next week already. We got to work on our own music too. Oh yeah. Don't worry, we got something planned for that. We are going to work on our I would be down to work on some music, which kind of ties back into the stream, right? Like music is something I definitely want to get back into. I actually did some music a long time ago, but I don't think I'm very proud of it. I mean, it was like some instrumental music that I did, but at that time I was happy about it. I had this app on my phone where I just made all kinds of like songs. I think I did like over like 100 songs on that app too. I'm pretty sure you might be able to find them out there somewhere. I don't know. There's somewhere out there, but I didn't officially release them. I just released them through like an app and the app kind of released them out somewhere. So you'll have to do some digging to find them. But I would be down to make some music and make some music again. There's something else that I do want to do down the road when we got a good setup uh and all that stuff. All I'm gonna say is there's some plans in place. I've been thinking about these ideas for a long time, and I think it's something that I don't see other people doing that I think would definitely tell the vision that I have and the vision that I have with other people as well apart from other people as well. So just stay tuned. Stay tuned. If you subscribe, you're gonna start to see some things. You're gonna start to see more things be explored, and I'm gonna take more risk with things. We're gonna take more risk with things. I need to hear. I'll send you a link. I'll send you a link to some of the stuff I did. Again, at this time, I was in middle school, so I just well, some middle school, some of high school, I made some of these songs. I think maybe high school too. I'm not sure, but you know, and they're all instrumentals. Some of them are kind of remixes of other instrumentals that I did in the past, and so you'll be able to hear some of that. I believe it. Time is it? It's 7:29. So okay, so we're getting about close to where the stream is gonna end. Yeah, big W to can we get some W's in the chat for an amazing stream? I want to shout out everybody that came through. I know I started a little late, and I know there were some people that were going to come through, but due to technical difficulties on my end, because I needed to update, because Windows, right? Windows is something. So I'm gonna shout out everybody that came through. Caden, what's up, man? Thank you for coming through. My buddy Carson, thank you for always coming through. Cam, shout out to you for coming through. My boy Anthony, shout out to you coming through. Obviously, the myth, the legend himself, Geekly, shout out to you, always coming through, man. I'm trying to see if there was anyone else that was gonna come that maybe came through that I didn't see. No, that was everybody. So yeah, shout out to everybody and shout out to you guys watching this on the replay. I appreciate it. I very much do. Um, I'm just trying to get back into the swing of things, just trying to take things as they are, and I appreciate you guys have been very supportive over the past couple of weeks and this month, and so it's all thanks to you guys. I say it all the time, and I know it may be cliche, but I wouldn't be where I am today without you guys. You guys have put me in the spot that I'm in, and I'm forever grateful for what you have allowed me to accomplish. And I just want to make you guys proud. I don't want to let you guys down. So I'm always thinking about ways to just improve. And even with the new mic that I have here, that's just a step in the right direction to just improving more and more and just doing more and more to just make the quality and content just better on all fronts. And trust me, when I get a good PC, when I'm able to stream and stuff on a professional level, I'm definitely not a professional, but I like to think so in my own mind. Um, we're gonna be doing some things. We're gonna be doing some things. So I look forward to it. But yeah, big W to everybody in the chat. Thank you guys so much for coming through. As I always say, if you have a dream, you have a goal, do it better than anything you can ever imagine. And the road to life will lead you where you need to go. So thank you so much. If you're new here, subscribe, check out the content, check out the channel. If you like my voice, you like hearing me talk, I have over 500 videos of me just yapping. So if you want to hear me yap, you know what to do. So yeah, also, go subscribe to Geekly. Me and Geekly, we have been doing a whole ton of stuff. We've been streaming. We've been, doing some videos, cutting up the streams into videos. If you saw the Wolverine video, very awesome. I was shocked by the reception of that video. I didn't think that was going to do good at all. Not that I cared, but I was kind of shocked by it. So, again, go subscribe to Geekly. Really awesome content creator. And I look forward to working with him more on stuff. We look forward to working together more on stuff. So stay tuned. Like I said, we might do a stream this week on Wednesday talking about some of the news. If we get more news, then we'll probably talk about that then. But yeah, other than that, yeah, hey, anytime, Geekly, anytime, it was your community is my community is your community, and when we're able to share each other's community and have one big family, I think it's really awesome. So thank you as always. I always want to give you your flowers. So yeah, with that in mind, I hope you guys have a great night. If I don't see you again this week, hope you guys have a great week, a great weekend, and facts. I appreciate it a ton. Always, man. So yeah, appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much for coming through. Until next time, big love to you all, and peace out.